Okay, I'm going to call the meeting to order. All rise for a pledge of allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, welcome everyone. The very first item on the agenda, second item on the agenda, is the homeowners associations. I don't see Rick Scardino here or online. Rick, you're not online. Or Don Bordeaux. Is Don Bordeaux here? All right. So the next item on the agenda is public comment. And what I'd like to do, well, hold on, hold your thought. I'd like to just set this up. So public comment, what I'd like to do is, for the public comment regarding the fire station, what I'd like to do is have that right before the agenda item, and limit it to maybe 10, 15 minutes, whatever we need for that. But now, what I'd like to do is take all other public comment. So, Chris, I think you have public comments, so please go ahead first.
Dana came over, or McCarthy came over and looked at the situation and agreed it's a problem. And I just like to get an update because it seems no matter what you do, Abbott doesn't move on either the fence or the berm.
So is anybody, our village managers online tonight, or Dana?
Well, that's mine, yeah. I've been leaving messages with them and haven't heard except for recently they said, what kind of issues are there? So I need to just set up a meeting with him and have him come out there with me and walk it. So I will call him tomorrow and just say, hey, let me show you, and we'll come look at it.
18 months or more.
Chris Meyer, yeah.
Yeah, this is, it's not news. I mean, it's not news.
Yeah.
It's gonna happen.
Yeah.
They don't seem to want to move on anything.
We just got started.
So,
Trustee Jamil.
yeah, so I'll call him directly tomorrow and set up, and then if you don't hear from me, by Friday, give me a call, and take me along if I haven't gotten back to you.
I figured it wasn't on your part. I figured it was their taking,
Yeah, but we'll get it moving.
Abbott's, corporate hierarchy. And I misplaced your card, Mr. McCarthy.
Okay, I can get you one out. Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, anybody else for public comment? Fire station will be done right before the fire station. So go ahead. Yeah, Benjamin.
Well, I have two issues. First and foremost, I contacted the village manager. There's a tree directly across the street from my subdivision that's hanging on the AT&T line right over 22, and that thing is going to fall sooner or later. And we just my subdivision wants to know if who or anybody can do something about it before that thing falls and hurts somebody.
Who's got that one? Do you have it, or?
So we've reached out to them. ELA, who usually is our go-to, said they won't touch it if it's not, if it's the company's wire or if they're afraid that it's ComEd's wire. But I can follow up again with Kinga and AT&T tomorrow, and find out what's going on.
Because that's AT&T's wire, just, ComEd's wire is on my side of the road, AT&T is on the opposite side, and, I'm not sure if you've seen this tree, but it's a 50-footer that's.
Is that the one at North Kruger?
Just a little bit before it.
Yeah, it's been that way for years.
Well, there's another one that,
I know, I look at it every day.
yeah,
Yeah,
Is that actually on Route 22?
yeah.
so it's a state problem technically.
Yeah, I was gonna say, maybe we should get IDOT to call.
So we called, ComEd, and they said it was AT&T's, and I know Kinga reached out, this was just today that we found out, Kinga reached out to AT&T, today, and I'll follow up tomorrow. With them to make sure they come out.
I know it's ultimately a state issue, but this is something that's gonna affect all of us in the village. And the only other, question I had is, in the property next to ours at 4359, we noticed a bunch of trees tagged for removal, and we wanna know if they have a permit to do so.
I mean, is that the property where the temple's supposed to go?
Yes, where the, residential
Like a
structure.
meditation.
Meditation temple? Yeah, so there's been no permits
There's been
issued?
no permits issued
Yeah.
for that, at all, so I don't know if that's just.
The
There-
marking may be as a
yeah.
result of a tree survey, which is often accompanied as part of an application. So I don't know the information, but that's not an uncommon thing to see the trees surveyed and marked.
Well,
There are
these-
no permits.
Well, there's ribbons around for removal, so this is not just like strictly marking. So that's what we want to know.
Okay, we can have someone go out and inspect it and ask what's going on with it. So, 4359, you said?
Yes.
Okay.
Anything else?
No,
All
no.
right, thanks for bringing that to our attention. Any other public comment? No? Okay, I thought you might have some.
No.
A birdie told me.
I'm here for the,
Okay, all right, thank you. Anything else, that anyone wants, but the fire station we will do right before the fire station, so.
Does Art have to be brought into the meeting?
No,
No.
no, he's not an elected official, so. Art, you're being very quiet, you can hear us, right?
Yes, I can. I've just got myself on mute, so you can't hear me unless you ask me.
Okay, great, perfect, thank you. All right, moving right along then, the public safety reports, Lake County Sheriff. Lieutenant Kaiser, nothing, okay. The fire department, no? All right, we're gonna move to the consent agenda then. There's several things on them. The consideration approval of the September 2023 bill warrant, consideration approval of the meeting minutes, September 26, 2023, subject to non-substantive revisions. There were some revisions, like the date was wrong at the header, which has been caught. It said September 23rd, it should have been September 26th. There was Barbara Clip was spelled, I think, Coop or something like that. What is it? Cook, that's it. Yeah. And so that got corrected, and I probably wasn't enunciating, so that's why that was. And then, on the motion, for the, SSA funds, Vic amended it to read, something like, or to read, trustees move to approve the release of the SSA funds today, even without all submittals required under the agreement, provided that by March 1st, 2024, there'll be a workshop. 2, recommend changes to the agreement regarding the required information, to be provided in the future, seconded by trustee O'Connor. So that was moved by trustee O'Reilly, seconded by trustee O'Connor. So those were the changes to that.
I'm sorry, can I just clarify? I thought we discussed that not just hold a workshop, but have an agreement by March 1st.
It was a recommendation for an agreement. I mean, I actually wrote that motion, and Bonnie was good enough to say, yes, that's the one I want. So I was taking it from my notes. It was to hold meetings, to make a recommendation for the agreement, because the village board ultimately will decide whether or not to approve those changes.
Fair,
Have an agreement
fair.
in place.
Okay, but to have a product to consider by that time,
Correct.
not just have a meeting.
Right,
Good.
Okay.
right.
There's a deliverable, not
Yeah.
just a meeting.
Yeah, that's,
That is
was the
correct.
intent.
okay, cool.
Okay.
And then, there was one other change that I had just sent to Michelle, right before the meeting, and that was in that same paragraph, just to make it clear that, although there was a comment that, the village amended the agreement in 2020, that's not exactly what happened, so, I've suggested that the language read, it starts with Mr. Messner and other members of the HDLGBA requested the village release the funds. He asserted that an amendment was made that has left the HDLGBA in a tough financial situation. So it's just making clear that it was his position, not necessarily that is the fact.
Okay, and then, consideration approval of executive session meeting minutes from the September 26, 2023 meeting, subject to non-substantive revisions. I don't think there were any. Ratification release of the SSA funds to the HDLGBA, and consideration approval of an application for the license to conduct a raffle and waiving the license fee for Woodlawn Middle School, October 25th, 2023, and March 13th, 2024. Anyone want to make a motion?
I do have a question or comment pursuant to item 6, further pursuant to consideration of approval of meeting minutes. The meeting minutes do not reflect that I actually attended long enough in the public session to adjourn the meeting, so I'd like to add that to attendees just prior to that vote.
Okay, well, you'll amend that, he was part of the, okay, so, as amended, right, so.
Bold it.
Moved by trustee O'Reilly, seconded by trustee
And
Borowski,
that's with the changes to the.
as amended, yeah.
Trustee O'Reilly.
Aye.
Trustee Borowski.
Aye.
Trustee Jamil.
Aye.
Trustee Chris Meyer.
Aye.
Trustee O'Connor.
Aye.
Trustee Panucci.
Aye.
Okay, motion carried. Now we're gonna move to, other business, and the first item on the agenda is the village planner's report. Since Taylor, and I'm not gonna even pronounce his last name, W, is on vacation, because I messed it up the last time.
Wagrin,
Wagrin?
Wagrin.
Wagrin.
Wagrin?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, I get that right from the spelling.
Taylor is what I call him.
Thank you. Vic has been kind enough to recap the Plan Commission meeting, because that's really what his report's about.
Right, and the report simply gave a summary of the prior sessions regarding, the report was focused chiefly on the Long Grove Fire Protection District's application for a special use permit. He did outline the history of that application as it went from the Plan Commission to the Village Board and then back to the Plan Commission. At the last session of the Plan Commission, and as you all know, this is for a special use permit to allow the siting of a fire station at the property with the common address of 5159 and 5161 Aptekissic. That's on the north side of Aptekissic, just east of 83. It was for a special use permit, as called for in the zoning code, to put a fire station there. The village received, the Village Plan Commission received information from staff regarding various engineering issues relating to the need for wetland and stormwater detention clarifications, as well as coordination with Lake Dot, which has jurisdiction over Aptekissic Road. Also, in connection with that, just the overall stormwater and grading plans that would happen, and the need for ADA compliant parking on site, which wasn't clearly indicated in the site plan. The need to confirm compliance with all the various bulk regulations was also pointed out as something in the zoning review of this. The property is generally shown in the comprehensive plan for uses consistent with our residential districts, and that includes fire protection and other governmental services as special uses. The Plan Commission did hear testimony and deliberated at some length, ultimately finding that the proposal did not have any adverse impacts at this location that were different than what would be the impacts of a fire station at any other residential location. There were a number of conditions that the Plan Commission recommended. Those are incorporated into the draft ordinance, and they related to landscaping, wetland and stormwater management, traffic, as well as the aesthetics of the building. And the Plan Commission did approve a recommendation to grant the special use permit by a 4-to-1 vote. The report was in the packet. If there's any questions, I can certainly try to supplement.
Any questions? If not, what I'd like to do next is open it up to public comment again, relative to the fire station. I know I think there's been 5 meetings so far on this, a lot of comments so far. So, but if we could limit it to 15 minutes or so, if less, that's fine too. But
Minutes a person or 15 total?
15 total, 2-3 minutes a person would be appreciated. So I'm sure there's comments, so I don't know who wants to begin. Yep.
Hi, I'm Steve Bernstein. I'm in Bridal with 5147. I've been at several of these meetings. I've been at the planning meeting. There have been over 50 different members of the community coming to speak to these meetings. It's not something that's blowing through as an easy topic, something that people are passionate about. There's a reason for it. This site is in the midst of a residential community. We just spoke and said from, I believe, Mr. Filippini, that this site poses no other adverse effect versus other sites that were considered. That's exactly true, because all sites were not considered. There are many other sites that could be considered and simply rezoned to make it suitable for the fire station and be more suitable than what is currently proposed. The one that I have submitted this morning for public record, was that received by all the members of the committee?
Yes.
Yeah.
Has everybody had a chance to peruse that? That parcel has been up for sale for, I believe, 10 years. It is a flat piece of land. It's at the corner of 53 and Route 83, at a stoplight, where the police, or the fire station could come and go as they please, change the lights as they please. They could turn left, right, straight, without any impact to any traffic in the area. This situation puts them in a location where they are not next to 100 other homeowners who are very opposed to this idea. I'm just astounded that nobody has come to the realization that changing the code of that little parcel would allow for a much better fit in our community. Putting the fire station along a strip of land that is commercially zoned, basically, but rezoning that little parcel so that they could build as needed. They could drop a 15-acre fire station in that area, and there's not a single person that's gonna say there's a problem with that. That land is bordered at the back by a tree line. There's only a few homes there, which would not be in direct earshot of fire station sirens if they needed to ever use them to get out. It would not be an issue on Aptekissick Road, where coming and going as the fire trucks need to turn right or left, we need to change the traffic pattern on a much busier road, which will be 2 lanes either way, and then coming up to 83's intersection, which would then have to stop. And even if the fire station can change all those lights in succession at that new proposed location, get those lights changed to then finally move through that section of land, all the traffic behind is going to be impacted as well. There's going to be a ridiculous amount of impact at this location. They have to move a pond, a wetland pond. They have to fill in part of it and reshape this pond. Or the lake, whatever that is called. I'm astounded at the amount of work that's going to need to go into this property. The demolishing of a 4,500 square foot home. All the impact that it's going to have to the environment, getting all the materials out of there. You've got to cover the entire land basically with cement or asphalt and a building. You're going to have the wetland impact. I just don't believe that due diligence was ever done to try to figure out a better solution. This location is literally 2 blocks from the current station. It would have 0 impact to the drive time or the response time for where they currently are. It actually might improve it because they'll be on 83 and can, as they've said, change the lights to make it easier to get to and from the locations on a faster road. I don't understand why this committee, the planning committee, approved it with 1 million stipulations, which once they get through to that point, is it really ever going to get stopped if there's a problem, or is it just going to get passed through the waste, and hey, we'll give you a pass on this one because you didn't need X, Y, and Z. I don't believe that this thing is going to go through as smoothly as planned. I think it'll be a lot more expensive. You have to demolish hundreds of trees and create a huge space in the midst of a forested street, which is a nice residential type of a street. The backdrop to Briar Crest. I just don't understand the process and the thought process behind this. There were people that spoke to them that last meeting and say, let's move it along, let's move it along. The lady who says this had a tour of the fire station that morning. Who was she? I don't understand this whole process and how it has gotten to this point.
Thank you.
So at any rate.
Thank you for your comments.
My state, you can easily see the location. There are no drawbacks to that location. None at all. There's a lot to the current one that's being proposed.
Thank you for your comments. Appreciate it, Steve. Other public comment? You were first, yes.
My name is Vahap Ulistal. I live in 5152 Bridlewood Lane. I'm also a professor of finance at the Ball University. I think this investment will be a negative MPV investment. It will be a waste of resources for the community. It will not improve the, overall well-being of people. Rather, as the report says, it only says that it will not have as much damage as other places. It's similar to saying that we will build a nuclear plant next to your door. It won't have any negative impact in any other place else. And I agree with the other speaker as well. There are other alternative places. The worst decision is the hassle decision without due diligence. I think this decision should be taken into account with due diligence and more careful consideration without making a grave mistake. This will waste millions of dollars and tons of money and lots of our time in the near future.
Thank you for your comments. Please.
Steve Auer over 5149 Broadway.
Can you say your name again? I'm sorry.
Sure, Steve Auer.
Oh, Steve, okay, thank you.
Just to focus in on the special use permit a little more finer point, I think that, the concern that I have is sort of this transparency in government and the whole process. Not even 3 weeks ago, everything was, sort of a deficient proposal from the fire station in terms of, how this was gonna be done, the impact, there's no renderings, there's no elevation. And then here we are, a couple weeks later, I don't think the proposal has been substantially changed, and, we're sort of approving things with conditions and caveats. The concern I have is basically twofold. One, I think that I'm not 100% sold that they're building a fire station. The significance of the amount of square footage, the amount of parking, yet no additional equipment. Are we building a village hall combined with a fire station, or is it really just a fire station? And so, how does that affect the special use permit? If it was a small fire station like the one down the street, that might be a different conversation than a much bigger, larger building, et cetera. And the other thing that's a bit of an issue is just sort of the lack of benefits to the overall community. There was a presentation about an increase or decrease, just the same response times, but that wasn't overlaid with the frequency of the responses and where they respond to. So in other words, you could say, hey, we're gonna be closer to X amount of people, but if 90% of your calls are to this group of people over here, how does that affect that 90% of people? And I think once you overlay that data to the response time, this location doesn't provide a positive benefit for the majority of users of the fire stations and the fire services.
Thank you for your comments. Other comments? Please.
My name's Eric Eglin. I'm at 5144 Bridlewood Lane. And I've been to all the meetings since I found out about this proposal. Spoken a few times, other times it's just kind of sat and let other people, I don't want to cycle everything. I echo what you guys concern everybody's spoken so far. And I just probably want to give a little different spin from my personal point of view. On the maps and proposals, it references 200 yards from the closest residence. That residence is mine. It's my backyard. This thing, my bedroom, my living areas, and my backyard will have fire trucks literally coming out. We just lost half of our tree line when they widened Epicus Road, much further than they said they were going to. I went to that IDOT meeting. We know how this stuff goes. Well, this will happen, we'll take care of this, we'll do landscaping. They keep taking trees out. They're still taking trees out to put more utilities in. And the thing is well, we need to do it. My concern is I'm gonna have fire trucks come into my backyard, in my bedroom window. Backyard, the whole point of us moving to Long Grove is to have this nice country setting quiet. My other concern, that's my own personal above and beyond of what my subdivision needs to worry about. When we come out of the subdivision, we're gonna see yellow lights, we're gonna get congestion. They say they're not gonna use sirens, and I do believe that they won't unless they have to, but that's gonna come up. We're gonna hear that. My next concern is, any of this stuff, there's gonna be an accident or congestion in front of this where the yellow lights are supposed to take care of that. But then the next thing will be, well, maybe we need a stoplight now. So now all of a sudden we have a stoplight outside of our subdivision that's gonna further congest things. And let's, open up Arlington Heights Road, because we've already got a stoplight here now. We're getting congested. This will be another outlet for the fire truck to move around, which will just allow other people to cut through to get around 83, and we're gonna have this mess of, and it's just really a residential area. You know, we're going from 83 to Milwaukee Avenue, and it's just gonna snowball. And I hope, as a board, that you guys truly are listening to what we're saying as residents. We're not here, we're not looking for a fight. I appreciate the fire department, they do a great job, they deserve a new facility. I'm just saying, as a residents who live right around it, we don't want it here. Understand it needs to go somewhere, but maybe there's another residential location that doesn't have as great a concern as we do, or a commercial thing that we can rezone it differently. It's just, we're here because we have concerns, property values, quality of life, and we don't want it in our backyard, and I hope you guys take that.
Thanks for your comment. Other comments? Please.
Cindy Lubin, I live in Briarcrest, and I've not spoken before because we've been well represented at previous meetings. We don't want it in our backyard, we're concerned about the wetlands, concerned about traffic, concerned about noise pollution, and there have been several meetings. I think it's pretty clear that the residents that are adjacent to this proposed space for the fire department do not support it whatsoever.
Thank you for your comments.
Thank you.
Please.
I'm Sunny from 595 Broadwood Line. I'm so appreciated I have a chance to sit here. My English is not that good, and I just worried that if we have a fire station there, it will cause serious traffic problem because 83 is already very busy now. So,
Thank you. Understand. Other comments? Well, I appreciate everyone sharing their public comment. If there are none, I'm going to close the public comment, and then I'm going to turn this over to the board to deliberate. And it's basically discussion and consideration of an ordinance approving a special use permit for 5159 and 5161 Aptekissick Road, the Long Grove Fire Department, Aptekissick Road Fire Station. So, where do we begin here? Who wants to, go ahead.
Yeah, two questions. One that comes from conversation here. How many calls a day, on average, do you have?
5 to 6.
Really? Okay.
Do they all require the large trucks, or some sort of ambulance kind of situation?
All EMS calls are responded with backup with the fire engine.
Thank you.
Sid, I sent you a question this afternoon.
Yes. I actually did send out a response, but I'll share it with the full board. The question was, in the draft ordinance, there's a reference to utilities and the ability to get a recapture for oversizing. Oversizing is something that is really an engineering calculation. The pipe and the pressure will deliver a certain amount of water at a certain rate, and there's
a... what?
I'm sorry?
Based on what? I thought it was based on population or usage.
Well, the ability of the water to be pushed through is a matter of physics, and I'll defer to Jeff as far as that goes. But in terms of, yeah, well, I mean, you know, a pipe of 8 inches will be different than a pipe of 12 inches in terms of how much water comes through. The oversizing notion is what is needed to serve this property versus what would be the capacity of whatever is installed. And that's an engineering calculation that is routinely done, not just here, but really throughout Illinois. That's an authorized type of approval.
It's based on something.
Yes, it's based on.
What is the something, and who decides what the something is?
Okay, the something is rate of water flow, which is a matter of the size of the pipe versus demand of flow by the, in this case, the fire protection district. And that difference is the oversizing for which recapture could be available.
I'm sorry, can I restate?
Excuse me, let me finish. So in theory, one could provide water to Briarcrest based upon a certain size line being put in?
In theory, yes. I don't know what our pumping capability is at the plant. And I don't know whether, I see Jeff is online, so he may have some better guesstimate as to what that would be, but.
Okay, I'm more interested in process. Who decides what could be added and when? So that I knew that it wasn't, that it was a good thing for the people that are close by.
In terms of the water, that's something that, in terms of what's going to be constructed, if something's going to be constructed, it's going to be an engineering issue as well as one that comes before the village manager to make sure that it's going to be sufficient. Now, in terms of the oversizing, that's something that the village board, as the ultimate regulator of the water system, can determine whether or not it's going to be size X or size Y.
So that will come back here.
We can certainly make that express in the ordinance.
I would like it to.
Okay.
I don't want to lose
Yeah.
track of it.
Did you have something to add, or did Jeff, is there a question we want Jeff to
I was
answer?
trying to restate what I heard in English, but I think they got there, and I got there.
You got there, okay, yeah, okay. I mean, there is benefit of the water being extended across the street to the fire station that could be used by Briarcrest. Also, if we are able to connect to Lake Michigan water, then Lake Michigan water would be available to all the residents of Briarcrest and the fire station, and the water flow would be significantly greater.
And all that is unknown.
All that's unknown right now, right? Anything could happen, right?
But it's like, if you're gonna go under the road, we'd wanna have a reasonable discussion before going under that road.
Well, that's the whole point.
Yep.
Yep, I appreciate that.
Okay, so other thoughts, comments, questions? We heard lots of things over the last few meetings. Anything you want to discuss?
I will mention, if you had not seen, there was a further redraft of the ordinance that included one additional phrase that came out this afternoon. It was just to clarify that as part of the overall process, which is otherwise required under our code anyway, but rather than leave it to guesswork, we put it in the ordinance that the architectural board does, or the fire protection district does have to get the review and approval of the architectural board for the ultimate elevations of the building.
That was in section 3A specifying.
That was in section 3B, I believe.
Oh, I thought it was,
3B.
okay.
It was in the parenthetical, and it says including but not limited to. I've added architectural review,
Got it.
board review as well as.
Along those lines, Vic, I want to ask you a question, about, there's basically the landscaping that's required. It's pretty specific, and I think it's 5.7.9 of our code, or is that right?
Right. We have in our code very detailed requirements as to the type of screening and buffering that's required for any use. And while there are varieties of ways to satisfy it, all of it is based on achieving a minimal amount of opacity that will screen the use. And, it's a function of type of materials and depth of the buffer yard, but we have been employing those requirements, I want to say since at least the early 2000s. So when you look around the village, if you appreciate the type of screening in the village, it's because we've had these regulations in place for all of that time to ensure that the character of the village as a well-landscaped and well-screened community remains in effect.
So, I have a question. Section 3B, if the district fails to get the architectural and watershed management permits, do they have any alternate locations where this property is gonna go?
I don't know what their alternatives are. They, you know, again, the Fire Protection District, approached this eyes wide open, and they knew that we have requirements. They know that they have to comply with the requirements. And while they have provided application materials that meet the minimum requirements of our code for that, there, from the Plan Commission's perspective, was still a need for more particularization of their plans. And that's why they had those conditions on their recommendation, and that's what we've tried to incorporate fully into the ordinance.
Question to the residents as well. Gentleman over there pointed out that, you know, have been less expensive for other sites, not this one. Question is, did you guys approach the Fire Protection District, raise the concerns at the initial stage when they chose the property? And if so, what was their response? Because I understand that they have their own district that review the location and the other sites.
Speaking for myself, I didn't know that there was even a site selected until I heard about the planning commission. We didn't even know it was posted by the property. Nobody got me out saying this is what's potentially happening. We just got wind through a couple of HOA members that heard about it. As for the alternate site that you referred to, the one that I came up with that farmland at 83 and 53, which is sitting vacant, well, a farmer's cornfield right now, but pretty flat. That already has Lake Michigan water. There are fire hydrants running straight along the road all the way up there. There would be no need for drawing water across or anything. I'm really, I'm just confused as to why other sites were never chosen or looked at differently. It seems like the only sites that were chosen were in residential neighborhoods to look at. And I know that that's the ordinance, but that's not thinking out of the box one bit. And it's simply not, the best location that I came up with. There's others that I came up with that aren't near residences either, but in the yellow box area that the fire department had chosen or had selected for them based on their data, that's clearly within the boundaries. It's right next to where the current station is. Wouldn't require a lot of work to make it happen. They could build their own pond, they could build their own forest, 15 acres, and it would be a lot cheaper to move there.
Yeah, just to build on that too, I mean, I feel like in the previous meetings, it's been asked and answered, you know, what were the alternative sites? And nobody seems to be able to know that, and it hasn't been provided. That kind of goes back to this transparency thing. It's like, well, you know, you're telling us this is the best location to put it, but then you're not giving us any of your alternatives or any reasoning or how you got to that conclusion. And frankly, some of the data that's been presented is a little questionable.
Understanding the apprehension of the residents, the village board, what, you know, the planning commission now approved, while this fire station, if it is in another area, the same concerns what you guys expressed can be again brought to the notice. So this is going to be a repeating cycle. So as long as, however, everything is in order, for the special zone permit, the village board should take a decision, probably they are going to take it, but because the residents are raising the concern. Simple generic question to all of you is, if this is relocated somewhere else, do the same concerns of the other residents also come into play?
I don't think we know.
Because obviously, you know, nobody wants.
Right.
There
Other locations of it,
They're commercial.
it doesn't have as big of an impact on the residents from immediate proximity to our entrance. We have one entrance and exit to Bridlewood. Briarcrest has more, but then you have residents that are gonna be looking on the back. I understand nothing's perfect, but don't know what the other locations are, and maybe, you know, the tips that they've been giving you, well, your value of each home is gonna increase, which is not going to happen, but maybe someone else at another location would value that proximity versus us. We are coming and opposing it because we're not doing it for fun. We truly believe that it's gonna impact our values, our resale value, and just our you know, quality of life. But maybe another location it doesn't impact. Maybe they don't have a view of it. Maybe it isn't driving out into somebody's backyard, or if you're in your backyard in Briarcrest, you're looking at the back of this thing. 28 $5,000 square foot thing coming from a tiny, you know, I don't get it, and that's,
Well, and my thought on that, you asked about, is there other folks, are there other folks that would be equally impacted? We've brought up about 50 different members of the community in our areas, and there are more that haven't been able to make it, that do oppose this. Not somebody that's off on Route 53 somewhere far away who's wondering why this isn't being done. We're not talking about folks that aren't impacted, we're talking about people who are impacted. And you asked if others would be equally impacted if this were relocated. The location I'm referring to is a 15-acre, double the size of what they're currently looking at, 15 acres. It is not near anybody's residence other than a church, and there's 2 other backyards that back up to that property. 3 lines. And the fire engines would not be coming out with sirens into their front yard or backyard in Eric's case.
I can
They would be
answer that
coming
for
out.
you. I can respond to you, because I heard you ask this with the PVC.
Okay, thank you.
Meaning, that land is known as the South 15 because it's 15 acres. It is privately owned and it's commercially zoned.
Correct.
Commercial has a higher sale value than residential. I don't, in order to get a special use permit, zoning has to be R2.
Correct.
That's commercial.
Yep.
It's off, it's irrelevant, it's off the board. You can't, we're not in anarchy. We can't just go around changing zoning when we feel like it.
There, well, so the,
There are rules.
yeah.
The owner has to ask for it.
Well, the other aspect of that parcel is the fact that there has been interest, and there continues to be interest in commercial development, that can generate sales tax for the village, and so that, and it's in our comprehensive plan set up for that, and so that, you know, that's one, it would be a tough sell to put it in that spot, only because of the fact that the plan is, and there's continues to be interest of a developer coming in there and doing something, and there's some activity right now as we speak, so.
I would add to that.
Yeah.
Number one, that is the top priority to develop in a TIF district. Just improving that land overall could be as much as, you know, the Harbor Chase, improving that could be well over $500,000 a year once that becomes fully improved. Then the sales tax on top of that, and that's why it's in the comprehensive plan. The other one, I think, is, Rita's point is, as a realtor, is apt. It's more expensive land, and the other is, that curve is already dangerous.
Very dangerous.
That curve where 853 meets 83, but, yeah.
It's irrelevant.
Yes, I understand.
The land doesn't have proper zoning. So that's a big issue.
The owner,
I thought it could be we talked about it at the planning commission, that it could be rezoned.
an owner must ask for that.
Yeah, we can't, what if we came to you and said, you know what, we want to change you to commercial, how would that be?
well, if
We
you,
can't-
I don't want a fire station
We can't
coming
just
in
do
with
that,
that.
but let me go on, please, let me finish. Are you finished? Are you finished?
Yeah, I'm done.
I understand in state that there is concern about property values. And you can take this for what it's worth. I have spoken with appraisers. I've been in the real estate business.
I'm a real estate broker too.
Okay, so I've been in for a long time.
Okay.
I cannot prove to you that your property values are going to go down because I can't show you anywhere where that's the case. And if I can't show you where they have gone down, I can't tell you they're gonna go up. There are no studies that I have been able to find, and I've talked to 3 appraisers this week, got anything, and they say, why would that be a concern? Okay, so my experience, chime in if you wish, bodies in real estate as well, and appraisers. I can't prove to you that your values are gonna go up or down. I can tell you what they are.
Well,
But I have never, in the decades that I have been in the biz, never had a client say, I don't wanna live there, it's too close to a fire station.
Yeah, but, that's not entirely true. I actually cited a few studies that were done on noise pollution and the effect of property values. It was one of the first things I sent to the board back when we started on that. And, in those studies, it actually shows a measurable value increase in properties that are located next to, you know, a highway, a factory, an airport, things like that. And when you're talking about the fire station in Aptekissick, I mean, this isn't down the street where there's no traffic. This is 4-lane Aptekissick, 4-lane 83. I don't care who you are, those sirens are gonna be blaring when they come out there going, you know, to all these calls. And that's noise, and that's gonna affect the property values. I mean, just fact.
Hold on just one second. It's my understanding that, and I don't live far from the current station, you don't turn the sirens on until you're how far away?
Turn around until we need them. And you're gonna need them on a 4-lane road.
But can I ask a follow-up question? Do you guys have any comparative, property values being down near the fire station elsewhere in the city, like Mundelein or, you know, somewhere else, Hawthorne Woods or whatever, fire station? Do you have any actual data to prove that the property value goes up? Because what I'm hearing is apprehension that when it comes, the property value goes down. So every neighborhood will have the same issue.
Part of the
I'm not a
challenge-
real estate, but.
Part of the challenge is if it's an existing fireplace and it sells at a a developer comes in and says, we're gonna build around this fire station, they're probably gonna have to discount a little bit because it's there. The first fire coming in says, great, I might cost me $50,000 more to go a couple blocks away, but I'll take that house for the discount. They'll settle a discount on the way out. It's different when you're already living there and this thing gets slapped across your subdivision with what it's called an external obsolescence. It's the external factor that you can't control that negatively impacts you. You could have bad landscaping, you could have a neighbor do something crazy, that stuff, but you can't control if a government entity is coming in and putting something up that, we're here because we have concerns. We're not making, there's perception's reality. Even if there is no noise, people pull in, pull out, and they see a big fire station, there's gonna be a concern.
I have a question for our engineer.
Hey, Jeff, there's a question for you. Can you, go on video or something?
Yep.
Look at that.
So my question, in section 3, section H, under traffic, the way this is worded, it seems fairly nebulous, and I'm trying to understand, is this common language? Maybe it's for you through Vic? And in practical terms, what is this telling us?
Well,
Pull it up
the
here.
traffic, I'll start it off, Jeff, and you are welcome to then supplement, but the traffic in this instance is not within the village's jurisdiction.
Right.
The impacted roadway, Aptekissick, is a county road in terms of access, in terms of their determination whether it's gonna impact the level of service. And we can literally talk to her blue in the face, and that won't have any, material impact on how the county's gonna analyze it. Likewise, to the extent that one wants to look at the next major intersection, that's under IDOT's jurisdiction. So, in both of those instances, we're not the traffic authority. What we have tried to do is to try to make sure that there's not going to be any nod, wink, or blink from either of those jurisdictions in connection with the approvals that the fire protection district is going to need. And that's why we say that it will conform to the applicable access and traffic management requirements and standards of those roadway jurisdictions. So they get to set the rules, but what we are saying in this ordinance is that we need to make sure and have confidence that they are complying with those rules.
Okay, so this is basically saying, we're gonna force the heads together and say, you must talk with them. And
they would need to anyway, but,
I understand.
but what the concern that we tried to address in the draft is that, the rules that are in place, the standards that exist, are going to be complied with, even if we are not the enforcing authority.
Okay. Sort of belt and suspenders, but okay,
Yeah.
thank you.
Jeff, I don't know if you had anything to add to that.
What are those typically?
Well, I'll leave to Jeff.
No, Vic, to your point, the fire department did have a pre-application meeting with Lake Dot back in late August, just to, like you said, bring the minds together so everybody's talking on this. Like I said, it was a pre-application meeting. They just kind of went over what was going to be required, from a site plan, from a submittal standpoint, didn't really get into too many details at that meeting, but that's part of the county process and kind of kicked off the county's formal knowledge of the project and, those two agencies working together.
Thank you.
Yep.
I have some questions, of fire department people, if I may.
Go ahead, ask the fire department people, like the village people. YMCA.
When I look at these maps for response time, and I compare the existing station response time with the new station's response time, the longest response times are in the purple and the lilac. Right, correct? This new map has a lot more purple and lilac than not. And we're here to speak for the residents of the village. That's who we look over. It concerns me that there's a lot of purple. And I'm wondering if what could be done to reduce these response times? For example, instead of building one new station, was it ever considered to build a second station closer or better for all of these residents that are in the purple? The green ones are the shortest response times. And the green got greener when the station moved, but the lilac got darker and the dark got bigger.
There's more area in the lilac and in the new location, 2% more, not an appreciable difference, but it's an increase, and that's our benchmark, is the lilac area. We can't achieve anything better than that with a one-station fire district, and we can't afford to staff a second station. So that's not in the foreseeable future for the fire district.
But okay, so I went to the NFPA standards for the organization and deployment of fire suppression operations, emergency medical operations, and special operations to the public by career fire departments. And they talk about response times. Was this response time measured by the NFPA standards, or are these response times from the time the truck pulls out till the first engine gets there?
Travel time.
Just travel time?
Which standard? One standard, okay, so the NFPA standard times when the alarm call comes in and the alarm process. The alarm call comes in and that takes 15 seconds, 95% of the time, 40 seconds, 90% of the time. Alarm processing time, 106 seconds to 99. Turnout, 80 seconds. First due engine, 240 seconds, which is 4 minutes, and so on. So I'm wondering if these response times match the standards put forth by the National Fire Protection Association, or are these real time?
Real time. Can't match NFP standard.
When is real time? Okay, please tell me why. Why we don't match the standard?
Because we can't with a one station for the amount of territory that we cover.
So these response times start when? The ones that are on this chart, what's the first?
The chart, the GIS mapping is done by travel time. So that would be from that location to the end of the color.
So theoretically, or practically speaking, time the call comes in and all of these motions, human motions, to turn out the first due engine, the alarm processing, that's another 3 or 4 minutes according to this standard. So these response times could be off by 3 or 4 minutes, which is kind of scary.
Wouldn't that be the same in either case?
But the purple is 6.5 to
I'm just saying,
4 minutes to get to you.
the time to get from call to people in truck wheels moving wouldn't matter which building you're in, would it? Or might it?
But your answer is, it's travel time. Like if I.
Math indicates travel time, yeah.
Yeah, so, but it doesn't, these minutes, I just want to be sure I understand this properly. Travel time minutes are less than the minutes involved between the time that the call comes in and the truck gets to whatever the.
Response time is a total component, yes. Travel time is one component of response time.
Right, so in real life, if I add these minutes on to the travel time, there's like 3 or 4 minutes that get attached to the time on here.
Our average response time last year was 5 minutes, 49 seconds. For all incidents in the district.
Yeah. And I understand a lot of the calls that are for the nursing home. You know, I live near one, and every time somebody falls, the truck goes out. You know, I understand that.
Trustee O'Connor, can I ask a follow-up question though? So my question would be, on the periphery, when does another fire department get engaged to help you?
Mutual aid.
Mutual aid, how does that work?
So, we have automatic aid, so mutual aid is different. Mutual aid means we have to call and ask someone for help. We are in a dynamic dispatch system, which picks the closest available resource and sends that. So our dispatch center is controlled by GPS units on our vehicles and our neighbors' vehicles, and it identifies the closest unit, and it dispatches them, which is why we end up in Buffalo Grove a lot of times, and why they end up in our district. Lake Zurich as well, anybody that's in the surrounding area. There's actually been times when a wheeling engine happened to be coming back from a call, and they're closer to a call in our district than we are. So it sends them.
So, to piggyback on that, so some of these folks in the dark purple, and up here, you know, the north end, which has countryside station
right.
up there, but this is in, these parameters. It seems to me that Deer Park is much closer, the firehouse on Quentin, to come right up along
We
the
often
road.
use them, yes. That's, Lake Zurich is an automatic aid resource for us.
Okay, all right, so these outlying areas and these little guys down at the bottom, Cook County, for lack of better phrase, you know, my bias is Long Grove residents, safety. Okay. So why are we in Lincolnshire and Buffalo Grove, when Buffalo Grove has a station right on Deerfield Parkway? I don't understand how, it looks like this thing is gerrymandered.
You don't understand how the district got drawn.
The Democrats.
Oh, you're talking about the district itself, yeah.
Yes, you know,
Yeah.
I
In
mean,
1939, when the district was created, it contained a major portion of Gila Township, Vernon Township, and Palatine Township. We used to go all the way south into what's the village of Palatine now. That's how big the district was. As villages that have fire departments annex into the district, then it takes that away from the fire district and makes it the responsibility of the village fire department to protect. Lincolnshire doesn't have a village fire department, that's why we protect parts of Lincolnshire. Deer Park doesn't have a village fire department, that's why we protect parts of Deer Park. With all 5 of our villages.
So is the net of those questions that maybe Long Grove should consider our own fire department for all these people in these dark purple areas? I mean, to me, this is really scary. If my house is burning or a child isn't breathing, 8 and 3/4 minutes. Somebody else is calling. Maybe.
Well, you know, so just let me turn this around, and I'm gonna get yelled at by the residents in the room. Where that fire station is, if I'm in Briarcrest, if I'm having a heart attack, I'm happy it's right there.
Correct.
right? So to your point, you know what I mean?
Absolutely,
So- so-
understood.
Super quick point.
Yeah.
But I asked this at the other meeting, the planning committee, but, so in moving this thing out to Kissick, on, 4-lane road, it's like a straight shot to Buffalo Grove, and they're building so many houses and, high density, medium density over there. I mean, does that then draw our services into Buffalo Grove and increase both the number of calls, so this 4 to 5 calls a day becomes 10 to 15? And also, does that deplete resources that are available for Long Grove to answer those calls? Because
Can we ask the chief to answer that?
That's
Yeah.
a concern.
Can we ask you to answer that? Yeah,
And there is no real easy answer for that.
okay.
I mean, we're dependent on what resources are available and what resources are needed. So if we are needed in another jurisdiction because we're the closest available, then that's where we go. And automatically, the system backfills. So someone else now covers our jurisdiction.
Haven't you ever seen Buffalo Grove going into their station?
Yes, my,
Because
My-
they're out to taking care of someone else, and their backup comes.
it all takes time. That's my point.
Well, sure it does. It sure does. But it's just like, wouldn't it be nice to have a cop on every street?
That's not
But-
but that's not what we're discussing.
Okay, then have a fire truck on every street. That would be nice, then nobody would ever have problems. The reality is,
My
It's
concern
not
are the
perfect.
people who are now farther away.
It's been shifted, right? So
Yeah.
it's an equal proportion. Now some others are further away and now some are closer. And you can't move and not have the exact same coverage area. So by moving, we've actually increased our coverage area.
Yeah, which is a bad thing for the people in Buffalo. If you increase
Well,
the coverage.
in all reality, most of that, a good portion of that purple area is not inhabited. I mean, a lot of that is forest reserve.
Well, I checked that, but there's still a fair number of residents, Country Club Estates,
There are, but.
and it was, a second station was never on the
I
draft.
just said it's not in the foreseeable future. It is probably in the long-range plan. We actually have that in the next phase of our planning phase, which would be in the next 20 years, but it's not foreseeable future, so it's not gonna be in the next 10 years.
I'm sorry, I thought you said that this firehouse was gonna be good for the next 50 years. That was
This
my question.
absolutely will be. If we have to supplement it with something on the far,
So why did you say the next 20 years will be another firehouse?
no, I said it's our next planning phase is 20 years.
Okay, so is this firehouse good for 50 years or
Yes,
just
it is.
20 years?
Absolutely.
So why the additional 20-year comment?
It will have to all depend on call load and whether our automatic aid resources are adequately covering that area.
It would depend on whether the golf course on McCreary Road becomes a density development.
All right, let's not go there.
Thank you.
could I have this, due to some of the conversation here, I sense a concern that we would not be enforcing each and every requirement. So could you describe for the residents what happens if they don't meet a requirement?
Well, if you look at the draft ordinance, it's making very clear that all of the things that are identified have to be satisfied before any permits get issued. So no permit can be issued, it simply is
Okay, so if they
straightforward
don't
as that.
do B,
If they can't
everything's
demonstrate
fine.
wetland compliance, they can't get a permit. If they don't comply with the watershed development ordinance, they can't get a building permit.
if they don't do proper landscaping,
Until they get an approved landscaping plan, they don't get a permit.
okay.
That's how we have structured this, so that the cart does not go before the horse.
Which is similar to a housing development.
This is what we do in pretty much all of our,
Yeah, my very first meeting.
But we have had situations where people have not
yeah,
followed.
and, I mean, we have, some that have lost their approval over time because they weren't able to satisfy those requirements in a timely fashion. So,
Okay, I hope that gives some comfort to the residents that what you see is what you're gonna get.
Hey, Chris, you're making Tracy.
Yeah, I'm Lincoln. First of all, I'd like to thank, Village, Attorney Filippini for informing me that we could push 12 inches of water through a 12-inch pipe better than we push through an 8-inch pipe. My 61 years of life is just really enlightened tonight, so thank you for that. I don't like the loose ends. Loose ends in these agreements end up coming back to bite us. You know, it wasn't an agreement, but United, or Vision Church up by, Gilmore.
North Kruger Road.
North Kruger. You guys wanna build a church? Yeah, sure, let's build a church. And then the plan comes in and it's not just a church. The, smokehouse was not supposed to be, it's essentially a 3-story, restaurant banquet building. It was supposed to be a replacement for the bucolic country smokehouse, but yet went through the process, and lo and behold, they're putting in 12-inch I-beams in a 2nd-story structure that nobody on the plan commission at that time envisioned, but it went through the process and somehow it got through. So what I really don't like are the loose ends. I really don't. I drive that neighborhood. I do 83 every day, morning and rush, and evening commute. I have no way to guess how you can get a fire truck through there. You can turn the sirens on, you can flip them, but those cars are not gonna magically vanish. They're stuck from Sunset Foods all the way up to beyond 22, and even all the way up to Gilmer. It's a parking lot. Those cars will just not vanish. So when we say, well, we'll get the traffic study done and things will be good, practically, no freaking way. There's no way. You can flip on all the sirens you want. There's no place for those trucks to go north on 83 in the evening, and there's no way for them to go south in the morning. I just don't understand that. So I don't like the loose end side of it. I think we've got residents here who have some serious concerns that are not being addressed. Yes, you can put landscaping in, but is that gonna do it? I don't know. Why don't we get those details worked out? Why don't we see the traffic study? Why don't we just get the gut feeling that says, okay, when you flip the lights on and the truck's gotta go north on 83 and it's 5 o'clock in the afternoon on a Friday with a Stevenson football game going on, how are you gonna do it? I just don't see it. The current location has multiple routes to get the vehicles in and out. You put it on Aptekissic and you're going north, you gotta know where to get there. You just don't. I just don't see how it's practical. So I'd really like to work the details out. If you're asking me to approve this ordinance as drafted tonight, I think it's too premature.
I guess I'm gonna be unpopular. I am comfortable with some of the loose end stuff. I think that going up on 83, if the fire truck has to get north on 83, it's gotta get there from either location. I completely understand the traffic of which you speak. I have been in that. I do, and I think that is, I'm not a fire chief, so there's part of me not trying to second guess that. I think this is hard. I hear all of this. I also, I'll be the nasty person. I said this when we were talking about a solar field. If you don't own the property next to you, you don't get to necessarily say, I want that view forever. Now, it is our job to not put toxic waste and things like that, so we're trying to do that, but, pardon? I think it's a challenge. I know, from a finance hat, that bond issue got passed, they have 12 months to spend some money, okay? They must spend some money. That's how it works in this state. Otherwise, that's, so that's an important consideration. I think that the opportunity to put that on Aptekissic, I like our bucolic. I like the things that we have in Long Grove, but I do think that more and more, we're gonna have more people who demand more services of our community, the fire department, the village, the police department, and those services, I don't want those in the middle of forest preserve. They should be on, in my opinion, they should be on those busy roads, concentrating there so that then it's not, right out in the middle of the court, right smack in the middle of Briarcrest. It's on the periphery, it's on the edge. It's how I feel. I will absolutely keep my eye on lots of this. As I'm asking the things about the traffic, I am comforted by the caveats in the ordinance before us, to make sure that all of these things are addressed that have been. You know, property values are not something in the ordinance necessarily. But I think I am comfortable with the caveats that have been stated and that the planning commission put in, you know, in a passing vote.
Thank you. Trustee Sanucci.
I have to apologize, I believe I'm in an urgent situation. I was notified by fax, so I apologize, I have to go.
Oh,
I'm sorry.
Okay, thank you.
I hope it resolves.
Thank you.
All right, so where does that leave us? I hope everything's okay. That's not good.
Know that his
Well, to
changes.
rebut that, if I may, I don't think it's incumbent on this board to make sure that the fire department spends their money within their allocated time. That's not our responsibility.
I can see that, I agree.
And to me, we're a village of 8,000 people and 8,000 residents. We haven't seen any specific, I haven't seen it, maybe I missed it, any specific data that says we absolutely need a firehouse moved to this location because, and yet we're gonna encumber the residents who live around that neighborhood. So I still think that traffic issue is really, really important. On the opposite side, my brother lives across the street from the firehouse in Burbank. They put it in front of his house. It comes and goes with way more than 5 or 6 calls a day. They're very happy, but it's a quiet residential street without the traffic of 83. So, I still just really, really have no idea how that truck's gonna move around that area. I just don't.
Did you watch any of the, video from the meeting last week?
No.
So they talked about that this was, the current station was built as for volunteer and all of that. Like right now, male, female, there's curtains. It was not structured to have people sleeping overnight. And so if you and I are there, our separation is like 1939. It happened one night where they put the seats in between.
But it's okay
Well,
because
Jericho.
school kids can
That
share
one.
the same bathroom now, right? So what's the issue, right?
I would say, I had the same concern, and I wrestled with it all day long. And then it occurred to me, that they do it now. Where,
Right,
you know, they make it up 83.
but they could also go up the other way,
Agree.
right? And then come back down around depending on the traffic flow. But if you're coming off that Hickistic intersection, where are you gonna go,
We're not a grid town
right?
like Buffalo Grove, Palatine, or other things. You know, we don't have a lot of cut-through options, except for Checker Road.
Okay, so let me, a lot of debate here. So does anyone want to make a motion tonight to move this along? What do you want to do?
I'm concerned that we just lost the trustee vote.
Well, I think in terms of the number, there's a need for concurrence of 4. If there's a concern after the outcome of the vote, there can always be a motion to reconsider, and if not, then the petition will proceed based on whatever the vote is. I would note apropos Trustee O'Reilly's prior comment about making sure that the village board ultimately made the approval on the utilities, I would suggest in section 3F, as in Frank, the 4th line currently reads, upon the determination of the village manager. I would simply make that on the determination of the village board.
Yes.
I agree with that. Thank you for raising that, Bobby.
I would make a motion to approve the special.
Use permit?
Good.
Ordinance granting a special use permit.
Yep.
Here, if you want in front of it.
I've lost my agenda now.
I
Approve the special use permit ordinance with the change in section 3F.
Here it is.
There were no other changes?
The change that you made.
Oh, and the change from earlier.
To
Yeah.
clarify the Architecture Commission. I
So
will
that,
second.
that would be 3D and F.
All right, that was moved by Trustee O'Reilly,
Second.
seconded by Trustee Kritzmeyer. That's a roll call.
Trustee O'Reilly?
Aye.
Trustee Kritzmeyer?
Aye.
Trustee Borowski?
No,
Trustee Jamil?
Aye.
Trustee O'Connor?
No. I'm not convinced that, in purple, that there isn't more adverse in this location than it would be in another.
Village president, well, the village president has the ability to vote.
Oh,
yeah, so I'm trying to think of what I want to do here. Yeah, no, so part of me, I'm like both ways on this one, because I walked that property on Sunday, and I saw that house that was there, and the house that's where the fire station's gonna go.
Oh.
The deck is falling off of it, and there were people with a garbage can with a fire, and then their landscaping trucks were there, and then there was the mulch, farm over there on the other side, and I'm like going, wow, this whole area here, I mean, maybe it looks nice when the trucks aren't there and the fire pit's not going and the mulch pits aren't there in the winter, but I was looking at that going, with the fire station in that spot with appropriate landscaping, the appropriate architecture, would that actually be worse than what's there now? And I was trying to imagine that. I was literally going, what would I do? And then I'm thinking, if I'm a resident and I have a issue, my house is burning, I have a health problem, wow, I could, the fire department could be there right away to protect me. I was also thinking about the fact that if we're able to move water across the street, all the residents of Briarcrest would potentially have access to it. And we know there's a problem because of the, whatever the chemical is, radium, that's in the water. They're gonna have to do something to the private well. So now, is there a way to get water there? So I wonder, what's worse or better, right? Obviously, I live next to the Countryside Fire Station. Now, granted, it's several miles down the road, but there's nothing in between. And so all the sound carries. So for the most part, it's really quiet. And every now and then you'll hear a siren go off. But even when they come into our neighborhood at night, I got out and walked and chased the fire truck. Where are they going, right? They don't even put the sirens on our neighborhood. So I guess what I'm saying is I hear what the residents are saying, that they're worried about their life changing. And in fact, the other issue that I've heard is if a fire station goes there, it will block, if you will, future residential development, right? Because there won't be the ability, no one's gonna wanna put, a residential development there. If a fire station picks the middle of the property, right? So then I was looking at the fact that on Hilltop, you could give access to, Briarcrest could give access to single-family homes that could go in there where the mulch farm is right there, right? And if the landscaping was done around the fire station properly, that you could very well see development there. And that doesn't even mean on the other side by Valley Bunyan that there wouldn't be a chance for residential development. So I guess what I'm saying is that I've come to the conclusion that, I think that I can support and say, yes, I know that you're not gonna be happy with me on this, but I think in the end, I think it might be the right thing for the department, provided, and for the village, provided that all these conditions are met. There's still a lot of things that gotta be met. I was looking at the landscaping that's required. It's pretty specific, it's pretty significant. So it's not gonna be, it's just not gonna be where, it's all gonna be barren. They're gonna have to put stuff back, and they're gonna have to buffer from the street, et cetera, except for where the trucks come out, right? So I guess what I'm saying is, I'm gonna be an aye. Sorry.
Bill, I think all of us who are voting yes are reluctant.
Yeah.
We are reluctant.
It's not a slam.
For issues like this. I've won some, I've lost some. But there's an emotional thing about putting something into a neighborhood that is gut-wrenching. No matter what it is, it's gut-wrenching. It saddens me to say yes. But it kind of like happens to be. And it's like I built my house. I was so quiet, it was, all I could hear were birds. And then Buck 53 was planned for my next street. And then the train tracks that had 3 or 4 engines go through a day are up to 30 a day now. Times changed.
Well, I mean, you know where I live.
Oh, I know.
Winter time, I'm gonna hear it.
Yeah.
I am gonna hear it.
Sure.
I get a lot of 83, and I'm expecting Aptekissic too now, but I get a lot of 83
Well,
noise.
maybe we could open.
So, well, that's an interesting question too. So can Arlington Heights, I forget now exactly where it is with Sunset there, can Arlington Heights be opened up for the fire department only to get through if need be as another way to get by? Don't know.
Oh, that's a village road.
That's another resident.
That would be somebody, yeah, another resident, well, Deanne lives there too. Do you live right there on that part there or no?
We live right near there.
Right there, yeah.
It's one of the things that keeps our neighborhood quieter.
Yeah.
It's a dead end. So now you're gonna open it up, they're gonna have to widen, because it's not wide enough, and we're gonna have a massive.
No, we wouldn't open it
No.
up for general traffic. In other words, it would be a release to let the trucks go through only in an emergency. So some kind of a gate. But anyways, I don't mean to make this
Different
worse.
topic.
Different topic.
They have that in, England, where there's remote control.
Well, till the gate. So, all right, so the motion,
motion
is carried, passed, so, thank you. All right, so the next item on the agenda is the village engineers report presented by Jeff Perry.
Okay, can you guys hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
All right, so the engineer's report is in the board packet. I'll go through and highlight just a few things for you this week. I will start with, there's active construction going on both in Towners and in Creekside. Number 1 on the report is the Osage Road Drainage Project. Construction started yesterday with some prep work, and today they started laying pipe in there. As discussed over the last few meetings, we're looking at getting the pipe installed within a week, weather depending. We had a little rain in the forecast on Thursday, so we'll see how that affects things.
Just a comment, I got a call
yeah,
from a
go ahead.
resident that the contractor parked their truck in front of their driveway and they couldn't get in last night, so. And I didn't pick it up, and,
Does anybody do that?
yeah, so.
Fire department. Just enough.
So literally, John Zapata, right, so he'll appreciate, he sends me this text message, and of course, I go to bed at like 11:15 last night, and it's like right around that time I missed it, but first thing in the morning, they got his driveway cleared up, but when I got up, thank you, Jeff.
Yeah, you bet. So, yeah, no, that was an interesting one, and of all the years I've been doing this, I've never seen them park a piece of construction equipment on a private residential driveway overnight. So that was interesting is one word for it. Just the other thing on the Osage Road project, the driveway culvert replacements are the responsibility of the homeowners, so we're still in discussions with them just to make sure that that work is coordinated, and also the owners are going to be financially responsible for that, so the village is made or kept whole, as you might want to look at it. So we're getting that done. Number 3, the Robert Parker Coffin Bridge. Carmichael Construction was out there to make the repairs to that. Number 4 is the 2023 road maintenance program. That's where I mentioned that the contractor has started doing the asphalt removal in Creekside. They're going to finish that tomorrow and looking to pave that either later this week or early next week, weather depending.
Holy cow, Jeff. They did the whole friggin' street today. I can't believe how fast they moved.
Peter Baker is a very large contractor, and I've always said when they put their mind to something, they can do it.
Amazing.
So,
Hey, Jeff?
yeah.
So there's a nice orange sign on 83 saying that Robert Parker Coffin will be closed for 2 weeks. Is it possible to request another sign actually on Robert Parker Coffin for the people who drive there?
Absolutely.
At that
So,
terrible curve, you know, it's orange, but it's at that terrible curve where when people are going, they're trying to go and make the light.
Which side are you talking about? Just,
It's by the South 15, it's on the side
okay,
of the
got it,
farmland.
got it,
Mm-hmm. No, I know exactly what you're talking
Not one
about.
on RPC.
got it.
So, great, segue here. The other part, and it's in the board packet as well, is the construction notice for the work in the downtown area. That's Robert Parker Coffin, Archer Road, and Three Lakes, both Drive and Court. As part of that, Robert Parker Coffin at the intersection of Route 83 is going to be closed for 2 weeks, starting on Monday. So this is the first, maybe 400 or 500 feet right from the intersection going west. And there's going to be detour signage to route motorists around that to get in and out of downtown. So, Trustee Kritzmeyer, thank you for the comments, and we'll work with the contractor to get, the necessary signage up. And then the other thing that President Jacob had mentioned, and we're still working with the township to see if there might be an opportunity to use their electronic message board as well, just to kind of highlight motorists as well. We're thinking of putting that probably the intersection of 53 and Robert Parker Coffin, as people are traveling east and entering the downtown area. So that'll be closed for 2 weeks, working with the contractor. Hopefully, Mother Nature cooperates and we can truncate that time just a little bit and get that open, but planning on 2 weeks. Moving on, Checker Road, for the traffic calming, the speed tables have been installed, and the necessary signage for, alerting motorists of them has been installed for both directions. Ela Township has also gotten the speed limit signs, I believe, and is putting those up as well.
Thank you, Jeff, because I drove by on Sunday and there was no markings if you were going west. So thank you. I'm glad.
Yeah, Deputy Oaks got me on Saturday on that, and another head scratcher, if you will.
Can I
Yeah,
ask a question? What's
Sure.
the design criteria for that speed table? Like, so if you do 25 miles an hour and you hit this thing, what's supposed to happen? You're supposed to like flow through it, or if you hit 26 miles an hour, you're supposed to bottom out, or, I mean, what is the target for those particular speed tables, and what kind of attention, or, what is the trigger that so they've gone over this thing too fast? What are they actually supposed to do, and at what point? What's the tolerance or margin on it?
yeah, I can look up the data sheets and stuff like that and provide them, but at 25 miles an hour, you're not supposed to either bottom out or get airborne on them. Also, I believe, without looking it up, that's good up to 40 miles an hour, but I can look that up. I don't want to misquote something on that specific of a question.
If you get a moment, I'd appreciate it, because I tested
Yeah.
them today, and I'm trying to decide what they're
Okay.
supposed to do at 20.
Did you get airborne?
Yep.
But at 25, it's pretty uncomfortable.
Oh,
I wasn't,
Okay.
I wasn't expecting that. I was expecting it to be uncomfortable at 25, or comfortable at 25 and maybe
If
uncomfortable.
you have a truck, you can just blow right through it, so.
Well, I've got some clearance, but it's still pretty uncomfortable. Thank you.
Yep. Okay, number 7 on the report, the Village Hall expansion, things are underway. At last week's meeting, I think it was the Historical Society meeting or the downtown meeting. I apologize if I don't know which one it was. But there was discussion about moving the Ruth Barn and maybe the opportunities to move it downtown, by a different route or a thing, or maybe lower the height of it somehow, some way on a trailer. So we're kind of looking into some of those options as well, just to see if there's another way, a more efficient way to get it downtown. And then 7B on the report, soil borings and the septic design are ongoing so that we can meet the schedule that Wold presented at the last board meeting.
so Jeff, is it?
Yeah.
Is the between the lines that the Historical Society has a preference for moving that barn to next to the other
I
building?
have a whole report to give.
Oh,
later.
okay, great.
Okay.
And here,
Okay, great.
and,
All right, I will defer to Trustee O'Reilly on that. That's the highlights of the engineer's report. If there's any questions, happy to take them.
Yeah, my finance radar had a question on 9B, the new pump.
that's my question too.
So, yeah, 9B, the distribution pump, and just to kind of backfill, this is the smallest of the distribution pumps at the well house. We're looking to get quotes on that, but this is something that's going to be probably in the $3,000 to $5,000 range.
Oh, okay. Now you made me feel better. Thank you.
Okay,
You're welcome.
My question on it is not to wait, to get it before there's a crisis?
Yep.
So is that what you're gonna do?
Yes, we actually reached out to some of the pump manufacturers about a week and a half ago to get quotes. We're waiting on them. Everybody's kind of a little bit underwater, pun intended, at this point in time. So we keep pushing on that.
Thank you.
Anything else?
Nope, that's it.
Okay.
No, from me.
All right, thank you.
All right, end of report.
All right, thank you. So the next item on the agenda is discussion and consideration of an extension of the lease agreement between the village and the Eula Soccer Club. Is Doug Anderson here? Hey, Doug, thanks for being here. Thanks. At the last meeting, there were various questions that were asked about the soccer field, right? And so we asked, Doug these questions. He responded. We have a written email from him with all those responses. And I didn't know if anyone wanted to discuss that or not, or ask. What, pardon?
Where was the letter?
Here, give it.
13B in the packet.
I guess I was really chagrined to find out that, it just seems like such a waste if it's supposed to be getting water from Menards. Although, I don't know what your investment would be to get the money, to get the water from Menards to the grass. There would probably be some cost in all of that, so that was unfortunate. I think, could you clarify a little more the question about additional uses? What's feasible, what's not? What's reasonable, what's not?
It's hard to determine that. So for 11 years, I believe, to the agreement, when we took over the property, it was covered in weeds. I think in the facts or in the responses, kind of gave background on it, that it was developed by the village of soccer field. It sat vacant for a number of years, covered in weeds. There was no grass on the field, period. So it took us about a year and a half to actually get some grass growth on it without water. In that time frame, we've worked with Menards numerous times to try to get this water, to get access to the wells. Our understanding from the previous village manager before Greg was that the village was supposed to have access to it. And he worked on it. We worked with the legal department at Menards to try to get water on it. Once we did actually get grass growth on it, the first season after we played on it that winter, someone drove ATVs across the field and damaged the field. The gates were then put up at the two parking lot entrances. It still has happened. They've gotten the ATVs through the wooded tree line. And then also residents from the apartment buildings across Lake Cook Road have been on the property numerous times. They dragged the goals across the field. They've had pickup trucks on the field. So, obviously use of the facility it's possible. It's just, it has to be managed so that it just doesn't damage anything that's put into the field.
Thank you.
Yes, I understand correctly. So far, you've spent how much on the?
Over $300,000.
$300,000.
Just 370?
Yeah.
How much of that is grass cutting versus value add?
Value add, improvements to the site.
So we planted grass seed, top dress, sanded pretty much every single year, hoping we would get a wet spring. We we've had 1 year out of 11 that it's actually worked, so I would say some of that's wasted money since we just don't have water. Probably the parking lot cost $125,000. We were required to put a final asphalt layer on the parking lot that was deteriorating. We've continued to seal coat the parking lot, to keep up, to extend the life of it as well. I wouldn't know the exact amount of it.
So 370 is your all-in number, 125 is parking lot, pavement.
Trash cutting doesn't cost as much. It's
On
a
your
contract with a landscape company that does all of our fields in Lake Zurich and Deer Park.
So roughly, what's your maintenance cost per year without, without paving or spraying the driveway or the parking lot?
I have to look up, I don't know that number.
What's your season, please, Doug?
We do fall, summer, and spring. So we go usually the weekend after, Easter, and then we go all the way through the second week of November. And there's obviously summer weeks where we don't use the fields at all during big summer vacation.
There was an ask, by, trustee Jamil about the possibility of, having other uses, like cricket or something like that, right? Is that something you'd be open to and working with other organizations to use it, or is it just difficult to do that, every weekend there's something going there?
I don't know anything about cricket, so I don't know what the playing surface looks like. Well, so the problem with lacrosse is, and Ela Township has had the same issue with the field off of 22, is football uses, Knox Park in Lake Zurich, and then lacrosse was using it in the spring. Well, lacrosse would destroy the field, and then, football would spend money to fix it back up again, and the township went and bought additional land, and now lacrosse is off those fields, and it's just strictly for football. Our use is, and we pretty much use that park every single weekend and every single day during the week in our season time frame. So I don't know if there would necessarily be time, but I know the, Forest Preserve did do a walk, and they utilized the parking lot, we worked with the village manager before and some other stuff that we keep it on the facility too. It's just hard, it's hard with the wear on the field.
My ignorance. Why can't Menards be persuaded to step in? It doesn't cost them anything, does it?
I think there's gonna be some cost to bring the water to the field, right? It's not, they need a pipe to go to from the store to the field, right? So.
No, so I can answer that.
Yeah.
They just do not want to cooperate, period. So we've offered to pay for a bigger well pump. We've offered to pay for the water to the facility. It's right there. It's right at the end of the parking lot.
Right.
They're refusing for anything. We got to the manager and the VP of facilities, I don't remember his name. We had it all set up that the irrigation company, the well company, our landscape company, our volunteer that handles fields, everything was coordinated so that they would be at midnight, during the week at the pump. And the manager comes out and just yells at everyone saying that no one will ever have access to his pump.
Is that the agreement? So,
What's our ability to enforce?
I don't know what the village's involvement has been. I know that the soccer club has, attempted to do it, but I think that the village
We tried
has.
to get, Dave and Greg and other folks involved.
So I don't know what the level of communication is and what the responses were, but I mean, at least in terms of the documentation, we have the ability to get it and presumably to enforce it.
that was my original
Yeah,
understanding.
it just,
And
it seems like it's just such a shame to put them to this conversation.
It's gotten to the point though, it's almost to the point where the fields are not safe to play on, because we need to get water to grow grass. And it's a beautiful park, we wanna use it. I think this was the end solution, was for us just to put in a well, not to have to deal with Menards.
I mean, is there a benefit to the village long-term as well, to have that well there?
It might be, like, if we ever decide that, you know, at the end of the next lease, that we want to turn that into some sort of farmer's market, public thing,
Right.
you know, connect to the greenway.
I won't be here at the end of the next lease, so.
Optimistic.
You'll still,
It's too long.
It's too long, it's just too long, 12 years is way too long. And, you know, I'm sorry to interrupt you, Rita. We've got a lot of moving pieces. If they do build a Bear Stadium, it's a great spot for a hotel. Kind of off the beaten path a little bit, but it's a good spot for a hotel. It's a valuable piece of property, they put the stadium in Arlington Heights. It's not just a field anymore, we move the field to London Hill or somewhere else. It's something that's not as commercially viable. I think 12 years is really a long time. Plus, has village staff tried to shop this thing at all to see if there's any other value that we can get out of this besides kind of a very reasonable, but still, you know, there are other options for us to shop this field to others to the point about the cricket.
Well, maybe a way to bring both sides together on that is a lease for example, a lease for 10 years. They have the first right of refusal on whatever would possibly come up before that, you know, to give them first go at it, if someone else is coming.
Yeah, I just think we've got a lot of options that we can consider, and I think a lot of those are internal discussion.
well,
I would like to understand why Menards is, what we can do to help this situation, then that was not the agreement. What I'm hearing is that we don't have a right to deny these people access to the water.
You know, we have to check with Vic, obviously. I thought the sewer recapture was clearly known, but I don't know what happened with the water.
it's in the agreement.
Yeah, we actually have a specific right to do so. We have certain expenses we have to pay for it, but we don't have any recapture obligation to make access to it.
Would it be worth another attempt, maybe with Bill? He can be Johnny.
You guys are all laughing, that's not very nice.
He could take Dana with him.
The two of you talk them into something.
I would love to do that. I am candidly concerned that, you know, earlier in tonight's meeting, we talked to Ms. Chris Meyer about 18 months with Abbott, trying to twist arms. They don't have that time for a season. So I understand your concern about the length of the lease, but I also, like I said, I think it's a shame we're in this conversation.
So again, I'll just remind you, there is a benefit of having a park there versus.
Yeah, there's benefit of having a park versus.
There is a benefit to having a park there.
Yes.
I thought there was benefit to owning the land.
No, it's having the park.
Having a park.
Yeah, is the benefit.
If you could get water from Menards, would that be your preference?
That's been our preference for 11 years. I don't wanna put in a well, I mean,
Right.
I think it's $80,000 for the well.
Right.
Of course, but we've gotten to the point now that it's not possible, I think. Whoever the village manager was before Greg,
Dave
Ledspike, yeah.
I think Dave mentioned to us that the only possibility now with the village would be to actually sue Menards to enforce the contract or enforce the agreement. And we're at that point now, we just don't have the time. We want to use the field, and I think it would definitely enhance the park for Long Grove, you know, after our agreement's over. If we don't extend, or you guys don't extend again with us, you then have beautiful soccer fields with an irrigation system, with a well, that can be used for anything at that point.
Right, but I don't understand why it would be up to you to enforce an agreement that the village has with Menards.
Oh, I think what he said was, Dave said the village would have to help sue.
Correct.
Is that accurate?
I mean, if Menards is simply saying no, notwithstanding the agreement, then I think that is the only way we would be able then to enforce the agreement.
So the agreement is with the village.
Yeah.
So, okay, just placate me here. So if we had trucks show up and start digging to connect to their connection, what recourse do they have?
Well, we'd have to make the connection, as I recall, on their property, so.
Oh. That's important.
It actually, yeah, their well has to be shut down for 2 hours to pull the pump out.
Oh.
And then there's issues with their fire suppression system. There is a whole list of things that have to be taken into consideration, which again, that's why the manager agreed to midnight. Because the store is shut down, they have 0 people inside the store for safety reasons.
I see.
But then him coming out and just outright denying us was, especially after, I mean, we paid those guys to be there too, so.
Sure.
I mean, I'm sympathetic, you're probably exasperated and say, at this point, I feel more in control if we can put our own well in.
Correct.
Or a well in on the village property we lease.
Okay, so I have another fun idea to throw out here. Okay, so if the issue is the 12 years, right? And the soccer field needs to make an investment. Now, I know this may not seem like a good business decision, but if we needed to break the lease after a certain period of time, could we reimburse for part of the well?
I was wondering that also.
Yeah, I mean, we,
Agreement had something on.
again, the document in front of you tonight, which was originally prepared based on the notion that the village was simply looking to extend the caretaking responsibilities of the property. So I think it probably needs to be tinkered with under any circumstance. But we could certainly say that the lease is a 12-year lease, that the village has the right to terminate the lease beforehand with some amount of notice, and that there can be an amortization schedule tied to the cost of the well, that if we terminate it early, there'd be some reimbursement for the cost based on that amortization schedule. I mean, that's not at all unusual, it's just a matter of if that's the direction the board wants to pursue.
That makes sense to me. I think the current thing has a 1-year notification on the lease. And so, if there is some better, higher use that is in the village interest, and we could make that economically fair, or economically agreeable, I guess, fair is it, in the eyes of the beholder. Wouldn't that make you more comfortable, Chris?
My second concern is the village not being able to use it while it's under lease. I really think since we own it, we ought to have the ability to put a rib fest out there on a weekend if we wanted to. And I think if we give up our rights under the lease, we give up our rights under the lease, and I think that's unfair to the 2,400 homes that don't use it.
Okay, so we could add another clause to the agreement that with the, on off days or whatever, periods of time, with the permission of the soccer club, that we could use the field for something like that. Put that in the lease if they're agreeable.
Not exactly, if that kind of doesn't give us.
Doesn't give us the authority.
There has to be a mechanism that we can say, in 2 months, we need some day for some event. Not asking for it, but.
Just having the right to do that.
I think it's gonna.
Under conditions.
They're gonna have to have, I would.
There's a
As a
schedule.
mother of somebody playing a lot of sports, you remember that, like, those schedules are well in advance.
Yeah, I don't want to be a hindrance to their scheduling, but on the other hand, I don't want to beg either.
Right.
That's reasonable.
But in what other lease instance does the owner move in with you, so to speak?
Well, when you're not paying anything. You're not paying anything. They're not paying anything for the lease, right, so.
But they're maintaining it,
Understand that. So-
If you have a rib fest, you're gonna have.
But that's the current terms of this particular leaseholder.
Yeah.
Leasee, leaseholder?
Lessee.
Thank you.
Lessor.
But what if we shop this and we find another tenant who says, hey, I got a better deal for you guys, I'll use my soccer field as a soccer field 12 weekends a year, after that, I don't care what Long Grove uses it for, and we'll figure out how to put the irrigation in the water. I mean, we haven't shopped it, we don't know if this is a good deal.
So can I?
I'm not inclined to shop it. I'm not.
Oh, but-
I don't know that.
Can I ask Doug to talk about, who are the people that use the field, the parents, kids, where do they come from?
So there's 125 families from and Long Grove, and then Lake Zurich, Hawthorne Woods, Eula Township.
So all from Eula
Our
Township?
organization covers, it's Eula Soccer Club that covers Eula Township.
Okay.
So what's your total?
Total players,
Players, families, whatever your count of units of,
we have 100 rec kids, and 600 travel kids, just say, so 1,200.
thank you.
So that was my reference to the 2,400 some odd homes that don't play soccer. Right, because I was.
The other side of it, so the other side of it too is, I mean, we work with Lake Zurich, we utilize Parks in Lake Zurich, Eula Township, Deer Park. They had discussions of charging a per resident fee for non-residents because of the parks that we provide to Long Grove residents participate in our program. And we do not charge an extra fee for utilization of the Lake Zurich parks. And we've done that we've been using, your facilities. We utilize the facilities in the other towns. We try to make it so that it's all of Eula Township instead of each individual town. So by utilizing those parks, it actually does benefit your residents as well. And I know a number of parents go and shop at Menards on Saturdays after they have their kids' soccer games, so you guys do take a benefit of the tax revenue as well there.
Well, that's the same deal that Parks have always done with the school district. If you're the school district, you can play in the park. It's all belongs to us. And that's, I think, the point that Chris and I both have, is that it's the residents, whether you're on that side of the line or this side, and to keep it specifically for you, it just wasn't quite set totally right. That somehow we need to make some allowance for other things other than soccer, and I'm a great soccer fan. And I kind of investigated all the various soccer clubs that are around, including Schwaben. And I just think we need to be able to do something else.
Well, okay, I'm gonna throw a devil's advocate thing in here. What have we done to shop Lemon Field?
You don't own it.
Park District? Is that what you
We gave it to the Park District. We didn't give it away.
Well, that was the conversation the last time.
Well, they don't have money to fund it.
Well, the ball leagues that are there are maintaining the field, but that was what Kent was saying. I hope he's okay, his wife's okay, or somebody. But he was saying that the Park District didn't want to, maybe you said it, Chris, didn't want to maintain that property, and so this was very convenient to have the soccer club take it over, and they've been maintaining it for, is it 10 years now, however many years it's been, right? It's worked out well. So, I mean, if there was a way to open it up more where, and I don't know what their schedule is, how tight it is, but there would be a certain number of days that could be accessible to the village for specific things, and we could work it out. Would that be agreeable to you, Chris, or the rest of the board? And in return, they would put the water in, they would, and we'd work out an agreement where there was separation of the lease, that, we would reimburse them for some of the money to put that well in, but, we would, you would have that ultimate flexibility. I think there's gotta be a way to make it work where all sides here can come together.
I'd like to see us try and make it work. I mean, I hear you on the shopping. I also think, we have a good tenant. We really have a good tenant.
I do. It's not about this is a bad thing. I'm wondering if there's something a little better that we haven't thought through. That's what I'm trying to say.
And
I know the whole story with the soccer field.
Yeah, and you may have, I can't remember, Chris, because I know you had like two different stints here on the board, but when the village acquired this, I think it was in about 2005, the village had initially tried to develop it and realized the trouble and expense, and actually did shop it before the Eula Soccer Club came into the scene. And there was not the level of interest to do it in a way that was satisfactory to the village. So that doesn't mean it can't be shopped again, But it's, it was not, it was a bit of a white elephant in terms of trying to get somebody to take it on initially. And so, you know, I think that, there's probably value, given the conversation of the board, to have some further conversations with the US Soccer Club to see if something can be worked out. If the board also wants to direct staff to explore other potential, lessees of the property, that's something that the board can direct as well. I don't think that we're in a position, from what I'm hearing, to move forward tonight, and I would assume under any circumstance, we'd want to make sure that the extension is more particular, that it's tied to the installation of an irrigation well, which the draft in front of you did not have as part of it, since it was viewed as an extension of a caretaker responsibility.
How do we decide what that model looks like from I don't say economic perspective, but we're thinking 65,000 and then 85,000 in irrigation. I mean, what happens in 12 years? Who owns all that improvement? Is it us?
Oh, yeah, it would be our property like any other leasehold, that, the permanent improvements are village improvements. So we would get the depreciated value of that.
There was something in the original lease, wasn't there?
There was a recapture for,
Yeah.
53 came through.
There was, okay, here, Exhibit D in the original, a condemnation schedule, so there's basically, an amortization of a cent.
It goes right through that property.
I think we
Yeah.
can't lose sight of the fact that they are a good tenant.
Yeah, they're good.
And they serve a great population of kids.
I mean, to your point.
I honestly, so I'm a real estate agent, so I think half the group in here. My viewpoint is that we've looked at land to buy. There's a couple of parcels we are looking at buying. I don't have the time. I'm expecting a baby. I have already a 2-year-old. I don't have time to develop soccer fields. So this land is already developed. I prefer to spend it for the long-term viability of the organization, to buy our own land, put a well in there, put an irrigation system in there. I don't think 12 years is long enough. I agree to 12 years. That's what our board voted on to come back to you guys with. So, I mean, that's my viewpoint of it is that I prefer to see our own facility. But you guys have this beautiful facility already built. It's surrounded by Forest Reserve. It's actually pretty easy accessibility to our players in Lake Zurich, in Long Grove. I mean, your residents love when they get practice time at Long Grove, that they don't have to drive out to Hawthorne Woods. So, you know, driving out to Hawthorne Woods at 5 o'clock during the night, it's a half-hour drive. So, I mean, again, I think it's beneficial to the organization, it's beneficial to you guys for this. That's why we came back to you first to propose this. At least my board was too, so.
Do you think they would be amenable to that sort of,
So I think
if this and that?
the issue with the other uses is I know how much we've spent on fixing people's damage that they've done to the field.
Okay.
So if there's a way that the village can guarantee that. The problem is, once we designate fields for per season, we don't have much flexibility of moving fields. Now, the way that soccer is, there's 4 different field sizes, so we don't have, back in the day, there was only full-size big soccer fields everywhere, and it was easy to move games. Now, there's 4 fields, there's goals that have to be moved, so once we submit schedules to leagues, we are limited on that field size, and in this area, we have pretty much 2 field sizes per age group for games. So if one field's damaged by, residents from across, or it's not one of residents, Pelican residents, that come across, and if they drag bowls across the field and create huge ruts that are damaged, that can cause injuries to kids, that hurts us then on our ability to, so I'm all for it. Lake Zurich uses their parks, we use their parks. We have a great relationship with Lake Zurich, same with Deer Park. We're not saying no, we just don't want to have to deal with damage if there's not some type of management behind it. And I think, we worked well with, Greg and the Forest Reserve, that now they're using the back section of the parking lot. They moved the gate up further.
because the forces are needing more parking. We didn't say no, we just said that that gate needs to be kept closed so cars are not driving across the field. So, I mean, we're open to anything. Again, we're a youth organization, we're not for profit, we don't make money, we just want kids to play soccer.
Can I just ask a quick question with hopefully a quick answer?
You're not gonna ask me then.
Okay.
Go ahead, Bobby.
Okay, if we owned it and maintained it and used it, and we were getting damage from across the road, what would we do?
Our choices would be to police it more, to put more effective, barriers in, to try to prosecute anyone if we caught them, but, you know, that's a very much happenstance kind of thing. And I think even with the soccer club, if they identify somebody out there who's not supposed to be, they still have to call the police, have the police respond, catch them, and then prosecute them. So, I mean, there's, enforcement's a tough thing.
But you did your attorney twist there. People who are not supposed to be there are different than people damaging the property, right? So as a resident, I want to be able to walk on it and say, hey, grandkids, we go kick the balls at our field. I don't want to be thrown out of a public park because I don't belong to the league. Damage, completely different story, I agree. We could find people by flying drones and tracking them and cameras, and we found the shooter in the woods, right? So,
We can put a flock camera there.
you can put all the license
You knew that was
plates
coming.
you want. So I think you need your legal twist.
No, I think that the issue of what do we do if we want people to stay off, that's what I was referring to, and in terms of enforcement of any of that, there's always a challenge with enforcement.
But stay off for damage, you did it again. I mean, I want to encourage people to walk the park and kick the ball with kids, or play cricket if they want to hit the cricket stick around, or wicket, whatever they call them.
Okay, so it really comes down to barriers.
Either barriers or stepped up enforcement, both of which have an expense and a challenge to them.
Okay.
All right, so so it's 9:00. We have maybe a couple more things to address here. Is there any type of conclusion that can be made tonight? Or is it something that is there enough people on the board that would be agreeable to have Art or Dana, whatever, work with Doug and the club to see if there's any other derivative, like we talked about tonight, of a schedule that may allow a certain amount of days during the summer that the village could use it. There would be some kind of where they would pay to put the well in, but if we terminated the lease, then we would, reimburse them for part of it, and just come up with a solution so that they can move forward and take something to the board and keep this, club going, right?
Those two, I would be in favor of asking staff on those two angles.
Okay,
And I would consider 10 years.
10 years, okay. Okay,
I think what we need to do before we extend this lease is to put out there, but in the interest of transparency, see if any shopping around, somebody else is interested, give a certain amount of time, a week or two, before we finalize it. That will open up, like how others are saying, that if not only the soccer field, somebody else might be interested to maintain it, then we can give it, and then get some lease amount to the village that can profit the village. That should be also taken into consideration. And then, if nobody else shows up, of course, I'm not opposed to Ella Soccer Club maintaining it, and then put a provision for the village to have a say if we have to have any other event, like Rib Fest or cricket or something else, that should be included in the lease. That's my thought.
How long would you give to get that
We should put it
extension?
out there so that.
I mean, are you talking 30 days?
So there are a lot of cricket clubs out there in Buffalo Grove, I know, they see grounds all the time. So if they are interested to maintain it on their own and get some money to the village,
But
should be exploring those.
are you sorry, to 30 days?
I would put, because he is, at least a fortnight, maybe, 2 weeks.
That's better. I just don't want I mean, we've got a new baby coming, you know, let's get moving.
I just, yeah,
I got death coming, so 12 years is too long.
you know, it doesn't, you know, I remember having a conversation with somebody who was like, oh, should I propose to my first girlfriend? You could shop.
I knew someone was
You know,
Um,
or you could say, you know what, I'm really happy with this particular partnership.
I'm very comfortable getting everybody together and just sort of bouncing ideas back and forth. And Doug, I get it, it's a great program, I understand, I've been around, I've seen it from day one when the board passed it to the Parks Board, or tried to pass it to the Park Board and then turn it back, I get that.
So Katina grab hold of this and get it.
Please note, we're about to be down staff and we've got an interim manager and he's sick.
And reaching out to a couple, you know, and just, you know, doing a little bit of shopping, I'm all for that too, I think we could do it in parallel.
We can meet, or I can meet with Doug and get some options and.
Why not contact the cricket club or organization, see if there's any of
Rita, you've been quiet.
Get a word in edgewise.
That's not normal.
I'm all for a discussion. I think that it's difficult, the soccer club has the lease until 2026. So if we shop it, it's something 3 years from now, that, what's the likelihood? You know, I would like, they've been good tenants, they've been good caretakers, it's a worthy cause, benefits us in several ways, so I would like to see if we can work something out, you know, sit down, have a, you know, whatever.
And one thing to keep in mind, if the ultimate outcome of the extension is that the village has a termination right, there'd be nothing that would preclude the village to start shopping it, but there's a consequence. You know, there might be an amortization payment.
Right.
So I think that the immediate approach might be, if I'm hearing the conversation right, is to explore both a mechanism to have an immediate or an early termination with potentially an amortization payment based on whatever the investment is. And secondly, to identify opportunities for village use that, and it could be uses such as consistent with soccer, you know, with the soccer field, provided there's no damage, you know, something as straightforward as that. To explore whether that's something that's amenable to the club and whether there can be some kind of meeting of the minds. So that, I'm catching the drift of your conversation is what you're looking for now, and that doesn't preclude the opportunity to shop it around along the way.
Yep, you bring up a good point, Rita. This lease is still out there.
Yeah, but the issue is that they need to do something for water, so.
Right.
We actually have contractors lined up for the middle of November.
Okay, there's that.
We started this in June with the village. So that's not, it's not necessarily all
We
on
didn't
us.
know that.
I understand, but we were trying to get it done during the winter so that we can use it for next fall. Otherwise, we lose all spring and potentially the summer. It's a timing issue at this point. And our lease does expire in 2026. And again, it goes back to my idea that I want to buy land. So it would take us 2 years to develop land out near Wakanda, Hawthorne Woods, if we were to buy that parcel instead. So there is some timing issue here as well.
They would dig in November?
Yes, that's what we were told. They actually prefer to do it the beginning, middle of November.
So we need to respond to you in a timely manner so you can follow through on it.
Does that give us enough time to have a serious conversation with Menards or not? We still need to check with Menards.
I mean, the other option I'll throw out there is the village gets Menards to do the well, or you guys sue Menards to perform, to give us access, or you guys put in the well. You guys put an irrigation system in, and we just rent the field year to year. And if you have someone else comes along and wants to rent the field,
Yeah, I mean, to that point, that puts us in the business of maintaining those fields.
I don't wanna own a water system.
We already do, and I'm not happy
No,
about it.
Yeah, an irrigation system.
No, I agree. I mean, that is fair, like, we could put that in, then we run it, and then we charge you something for it, you know, but.
And then they buy their land, and they go play somewhere else.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay, you do realize we have nothing planned.
I understand.
So it's all just thought and.
Not trying to be a curmudgeon here, just.
Okay, so we're stuck here. We're gonna have to, this is gonna go circular. Let's, Dana,
Dana, grab it.
Yeah.
grab it. Let's try to figure out, I mean, I wanna make this work. It's, you know,
I don't have interest in trying to make us wait for a Menards conversation.
Okay.
Is it something we said?
Everything. Mr. Best?
Likewise. All right.
I'll resign tonight if you're taking over.
All right, moving right along, thank you. Thank you, Doug, for being here. So, good luck,
Yeah.
baby. All right, so, the only thing, I was trying to find it, this weekend, Sunday, is the open space, is it open space or open lands? Open space? At Herons Creek, there is gonna be,
Oh, I did see that, yeah.
So we need to
You
make-
sent an email from Barbara, maybe.
yeah, from Barbara, I couldn't find the email, so
Can we do a,
yeah, we should get a blast of it out there, so if you can,
What is it that you wanna?
we have there's an event happening, open space, open lands, over at the Herons Creek, and Barbara Clip has the, invitation.
Shelter B?
Shelter B, yeah, so that, we wanna invite, residents, to attend. Yeah, okay, that's all I have for my report. Trustee Borowski.
SWACO meeting canceled due to lack of agenda items.
Thank you. Trustee Jamil.
Second?
Nothing? No? Okay. Trustee Kritzmeyer.
We've set a date, the auditor has the final stuff that they need, we've set a date to review the final audit, I think it's November 2nd, so hopefully it'll be then in front of the village that November, whatever that first November meeting is.
Yeah, I'm not gonna.
And they've already filed the extension, they're normally due at the end of October, they've already filed it for end of December, so we're covered.
Perfect. Thank you. Trustee O'Connor. Trustee O'Reilly.
Okay, after our last meeting, Kent and I got a meeting together with the Historical Society, and, 8 or 9 of us met, and a couple of important things. I know that we're going to move the barn, that's for sure. But I am not convinced where to go. But one of the things that came up, which we hadn't discussed, was the schoolhouse. And the consensus of our group was that if you move the barn to the downtown, you take the schoolhouse with it. And that would put 3 move-ins. It would be the farmhouse, the barn, and the schoolhouse, which would be a real draw.
What about the outhouse?
So you'd have a campus.
We take the outhouse.
You'd have a campus.
Sorry, Bobby.
You're charming, you can
Yeah, I can't flush though, but anyways, go ahead.
That would be just a wonderful, focus for the village. We also discussed how important that barn and that schoolhouse is to Long Grove. And that's why they have an appointment, and not an appointment, a meeting on Thursday.
No, tomorrow.
Tomorrow, okay. And you know that Jane's the president of the Historical Society. And one of the things that I'd like to see us say is that we know we have to move the barn, But exactly where we're going to move the barn and how we're going to move the barn be determined on another day. That these things can run simultaneously. We know it's a huge issue to get it done. And, some of the possibilities, one is grants. Now, you feel as if there are grants available.
I hope, I'm willing to work at it.
Yes. One possibility is a fundraiser with residents, coming up with some money. And the third, rather bizarre, but I hope would be possible as a last resort, if we were close to accomplishing and didn't have exactly the amount of money we needed, and that would be if the village could loan them the money to be paid back in a certain amount of time. I know Doug has done this, you're an engineer.
Yeah, not a civil engineer,
Okay, that's close enough. Done this.
Sorry, I have one of those, they're not.
I know they're not. I am a biomedical engineer, so I know it's not the same church. But he did speak this and draw this, where the schoolhouse was, where's the schoolhouse?
Is that what this is?
Right here?
Yeah, it's up here in the left.
Oh, okay.
And then, Doug had also taken these pictures. The most intriguing one is the basement. It's not here. The under the barn. Barn? You know, I didn't have it, because it's a goodie. So I'll let Jane go ahead, and I know she's got a lot of, things that are in the, the underside of the barn, the beams are not level.
Well, they're wooden beams, basically tree trunks underneath holding up the barn. So, it's just part of the character of how they built barns back in the day. And having it raised, you can actually look underneath to the construction, not only inside the building and outside, but underneath. You get, the feel of how things were done back then. It's a great historical truth to have.
And it cannot sit on a slab. It will not sit level on a slab.
Because, if you put it on a slab, you're gonna have, probably decay, rot, et cetera, critters underneath there living, and there's nothing you can do to get rid of them because it'd be sealed. So right now, having it on the piers, is certainly, the way to go, like we have today.
So it comes down to money. The desire is to move it to downtown.
We aren't quite, to be honest, we aren't quite sure about that. That's gonna be a discussion in our meeting tomorrow.
Right.
I guess our challenge is, so that says moving the barn over to the schoolhouse on the village proper, wherever that is over there. You're saying take that off the table.
No, I'm not saying take it
Because
off.
that one comes with the long lead time with the Army Corps of Engineers.
I know that, but my point is that the 4 months is not gospel. It doesn't mean that we can't be running simultaneously. What is the exact cost? Is it surmountable? Can it be done? At the same time we're applying for permits.
So you're suggesting out of whatever the three options, I can't remember, that Jeff showed, we pitch one and pursue two in parallel until we can come to a better decision? He had three options. I'm trying to remember what they were.
Hey, Jeff, yeah, go ahead.
Option one is to simply move it next to the schoolhouse. Option two is to take it apart and move it, pieces over to the farmhouse and rebuild it. Option three is to move it in totality down.
Thank you, Jane. Okay, so,
Believe me, I've been reading it.
am I hearing correctly? You want to take option two off the table?
No, I don't know, I don't wanna speak for the board.
Oh, I see,
I don't
okay.
want to, because we have not had Bobby and Ken, and we have not had a board meeting, we only have board meetings once a month, and it's tomorrow. So, everybody's gonna be at this board meeting this time, so we need to talk. There's there's a number of people that, it's been a discussion for a long time, it'd be wonderful to have all the buildings together. We've actually talked to Ryan Messner too, and he is like totally on board because it would bring people into the village.
And Bobby, let me just make one comment too. So one of the, on our plan for this village hall, one of the things that has to happen is this barn has to move. But it doesn't necessarily mean that it has to move all the way over there. It could be just put off to the side.
Right.
We can find out, Jeff, how much that would cost. You can, but we have a spot where we could probably park it, leave it there.
Well, the only problem with that is that it is a barn that was built in, the 1840s or something. So multiple moves are probably not the best thing for it. But don't put a no. Right. I'm saying it's not the best thing.
No, it would be set up in a way, well, here, I just envision, I'm not a mover, I'm not an engineer, you're engineers.
I have no clue.
I'm thinking that you put it up in a way so it's ready for movement, right? So it's all shored up and everything else, and whatever stabilization, a big ribbon around it, tying it up, and it gets set off to the side, so that when it's ready to be moved, it is ready to be picked up and moved over there, right? But it's done in a way where you don't have to start all over and you don't damage it. I'm sure Jeff can speak to, as an engineer, Doug can speak to it as well. There's a way to do this where you're not gonna.
There's a way to find somebody who knows how to.
Knows how to do it, yeah.
That's important.
Yeah.
That's the important part. And a side benefit could be using the land for the future.
Sure.
For the village. It's not so practical right now, but 20 years from now, we may have totally different needs, and whether that's a parking lot or a heliport, it would be there to use. And I know that the septic field is there. Maybe if we're not moving the barn up there, maybe if the schoolhouse isn't there, maybe the septic field could be in a more practical place on the land to make a parking lot or a building more usable. So it's a lot of ifs, but, as I said to this group the other night, I've done some insurmountable projects. A favorite project that nobody knew I could do, and that was at, I forget what it's called now, the old Twin Grove School. Park District had no money. And I went to the Park District and I said, what's the first thing you need? And I think it was 5,000 yards of fill. And everybody just looked around. So I started, and this was before cell phones, and every time I'd see a pile of dirt, I'd call and say, could you donate it? And I did that probably 100 times. And I got to the point where I just automatically said, thank you for your time, I appreciate it. And one day, I hung up and I said, oh my God, he said yes. And it was down at Sunday Grove, and they had all this fill. So we got trucks, everybody who had a truck, village, township, we had a road going up Arlington Heights Road, and they brought 5,000 yards. And then I said, well, what do we need now? We need to grade it. You'll never guess how we graded it. The Navy Seals. They came with their enormous, I don't even know what they're called, but they're graders. and they played in that space for practice for the Navy Seabees.
Oh, well,
And that's how we got a graded park. Took a year. But it got done. So there's no reason this can't get done.
so I guess, this has been put out there tonight. You're gonna have your board meeting tomorrow, right? We'll get feedback, and then it'll be brought back before us probably at the next meeting. In whatever form it comes to us.
Right.
Okay.
Right.
I don't wanna be that guy, but after we move it, then what? I mean, how do we protect it? You know, put a roof over it, and we put an enclosure around it. I mean, wood doesn't last forever.
The same way the farmhouse.
Well, that means we gotta paint it or something, right?
Well, no, it took several years to get the farmhouse done, which is the reason so many people in Long Grove have ugly moss in their house.
What?
Have what?
Have ugly moss, the artist.
Oh, I don't know who that is. Who is that?
He's an artist, she. Did some pictures.
Okay, that's all cool, but I think, so we go through the expense of moving it, we put it up, it's a cool addition, it belongs up there. I think it makes sense. How do we protect it? That's really my next question.
Wood's gonna rot, and the way it's sitting out here right now isn't doing it any good long term.
Actually, it's in really good shape. It's all-
What kind of wood is it made out of? Does anyone know? Is it cedar? Okay.
Just food for thought, that's all I'm saying. We go through.
It's actually pretty stable.
I mean,
it looks
the
like-
infrastructure is very stable. You take a look at the beams and they're in great shape. Some of the outside boards look horrible, but, we've, gotten boards from old barns, that have been torn down, and there's a stock of boards in the second floor.
And the maintenance is our responsibility.
I understand that, I just,
So they start, and that's It's part of. not easy.
I get it,
That's
trust
part
me,
of
I get
our
it.
fundraising, that we maintain all the buildings.
Oh, okay, so are we in a good spot to stop here? So, I'm gonna keep us moving thank you for that. And I just had to say, when you were starting to talk about moving dirt, all I could think was the Grove, and thank God that wasn't the Grove. But anyways, back to the manager's report. Is there any, thing from Art that you wanna share with us quickly? It's getting late.
No, just call me or email me if you have any questions. Thank you.
Thanks, Art.
Hope you get better fast.
Hope you feel better. Okay, so looking for a motion to adjourn? Moved by trustee O'Connor, seconded by trustee O'Reilly. Roll call?
Voice vote.
Voice vote, all in favor?
Aye.
Any nays? All right, meeting adjourned. Good night, everyone.
Thanks.